Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're going to try to tackle a pretty big question.
Oh, yeah.
The age-old question.
Yeah.
Of how the universe began.
Okay.
Specifically, by focusing on the creation account in Genesis.
Right.
We've got a really diverse stack of sources for you all.
Absolutely.
Biblical commentaries,
It's
scientific papers, even some historical and philosophical perspectives.
Right.
We really want to try and equip you to understand this foundational story and see how it holds up, even with all the scientific discoveries happening today.
It's a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be exploring the vastness of the cosmos,
Right.
the concept of a creator God,
Yeah.
and what it truly means to be human.
Genesis starts with a question.
Okay.
So simple, yet so profound.
All right.
Why is there something rather than nothing?
That's the question, isn't it?
This has puzzled philosophers for centuries.
Absolutely. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Arthur Schopenhauer spent their lives wrestling with the very nature of existence.
Right.
Why is there something rather than nothing?
Yeah.
That's a question that goes way beyond just science.
Right.
It gets at the meaning of everything.
It forces us to consider two completely different viewpoints.
Okay.
Is it all just random chance?
Okay.
Or was it a deliberate act by a creator?
Yeah, and each viewpoint leads to radically different conclusions about human life.
Right.
If we're just cosmic accidents,
Yeah.
then what's the point of it all?
Right.
But if there's a creator God,
Mm-hmm.
then we were made with intention.
Yeah.
Part of a much bigger plan.
The Bible doesn't waste time trying to prove God exists.
Right.
It just states it as fact.
It's just a fact.
Like in Psalm 19,
Okay.
it describes how creation itself testifies to God.
It's beautiful, you know,
Yeah.
the heavens declare God's glory,
Yeah.
the skies show his handiwork. Every day and night creation speaks.
Wow.
Imagine the universe whispering the existence of its creator.
Gives you chills. And right from the start,
Okay.
Genesis calls God Elohim.
Yeah.
It's actually a plural noun,
That's right.
hinting at the idea of the Trinity.
Yes.
That God exists as one being,
Right.
but three persons.
You can almost think of it like water.
Oops.
You know, it can be ice, liquid, or vapor,
Right.
but it's still H2O.
Yeah.
The Trinity is one God
Well.
in three persons.
Okay.
Distinct yet inseparable.
So right off the bat,
Yeah.
we have a God who's relational complex.
Right.
Not some distant, solitary force.
Definitely not.
Okay, so we've got this creator God,
Right?
but what about the sheer scale of what he created?
Yeah, our galaxy alone, the Milky Way, has 200 billion stars.
Wow.
It takes 250 million years for it to make one rotation.
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And Isaiah 48.13 says, God's hand laid the foundation of the earth.
That's right.
His right hand stretched out the heavens.
Talk about power.
But then Isaiah 40.12 says God is even greater than his creation. Yeah. Measures the waters in his hand. Weighs the mountains on a scale.
It's almost a paradox.
Right.
Both intimately involved,
Yeah.
yet infinitely bigger.
It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
And leads to the next question.
Okay.
How did this universe come about?
Right.
Some argue it was just chance.
Right.
But we need to be clear about what chance means. It's about probability,
Exactly.
not some force that acts on its own.
Right, like flipping a coin.
Okay.
There's a 50% chance it'll land heads.
Yeah.
But chance itself didn't make it do that.
Right. The flip gravity air resistance.
Right.
Those are the forces at play.
Exactly. Chance just describes the odds.
Okay.
It's not a creator.
Yeah.
And this is crucial when talking about the universe's origin.
It reminds me of Carl Sagan searching for intelligent life.
Oh, yeah.
He looked for order and patterns in radio signals.
Right.
Because intelligence doesn't just come from random noise, right?
Exactly. And just like intelligent life creates order. We see incredible order and patterns in the universe,
Right.
suggesting a design,
Yeah.
not mere randomness.
Which brings us to the just right universe idea.
Okay.
That everything is precisely tuned for life to exist.
Yeah.
Hugh Ross gives some great examples in The Fingerprint of God.
Like gravitational force.
Okay.
Too strong, and stars burn too hot and unevenly for life.
Yeah.
Too weak, and stars wouldn't even ignite.
It's like a cosmic balancing act.
Yeah.
And then there's the speed of light.
Okay.
If it were faster, stars would blast out too much light. Slower, and there wouldn't be enough.
And think about the distance between stars.
Okay.
Too far, no rocky planets could form.
Right.
Too close, and their orbits would be unstable.
Yeah.
Everything is so perfectly calibrated.
Even the water molecule's polarity is crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
If it were different, water wouldn't be a good solvent or ice wouldn't float.
Totally.
Totally changing our planet.
All these factors make it hard to believe this just randomly happened. It points to a universe designed for life.
Yeah.
Now let's look closer at that word Genesis uses.
Okay.
Bara.
What's special about that word?
It means created,
Wait.
but in a very specific way.
Yeah.
It implies creation ex nihilo,
Okay.
literally out of nothing.
Okay.
God didn't work with pre-existing stuff. He brought everything into being from absolute nothingness.
Okay.
This is important because it directly contradicts ideas that God simply molded pre-existing materials.
Right.
Genesis presents a God of ultimate power,
Oh.
bringing forth existence from absolute nothingness.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah,
It emphasizes God's absolute power as creator.
absolutely.
And this creation wasn't just a one-time thing.
Right.
The phrase God created appears multiple times in Genesis 1,
Yeah,
implying ongoing involvement.
absolutely. It's not like God set things in motion and then walked away.
Yeah.
He's actively shaping and ordering the universe.
It's amazing to consider that God's creation is still unfolding and we're a part of it.
It's fascinating.
But what about science?
Okay.
Doesn't it clash with this idea of a creator God?
Not necessarily. Science is constantly changing.
Yeah.
Even the most accepted theories can get revised with new evidence.
Like what?
Take the Big Bang Theory,
Okay.
which explains the universe's origin. It's gone through tons of revisions over the years.
The Los Angeles Times even has a sidebar
Oh, really?
called The Big Bang and What Followed It.
Okay.
That shows how our understanding of it has evolved over time.
Right. Scientists are constantly refining their models based on new observations.
And then there's dark matter.
Oh, yeah.
Scientists think it makes up most of the universe's mass,
Right.
but they still have no idea what it actually is.
I know. It's crazy.
As David O. Caldwell puts it,
Yeah.
when it comes to dark matter, the only thing we are convinced of at the moment is that it's there.
That's about it. Yeah.
Even that's debated.
I know.
Michael S. Turner says it's humbling to not know the origin, composition,
Yuri!
energy, and mass of the most common matter in the universe.
It's a reminder that science, while amazing, doesn't have all the answers.
Exactly. Rethinking cosmic questions. Another Los Angeles Times article highlights this humility among scientists.
Okay.
They admit their knowledge has limits and their theories could be proven wrong.
It's refreshing.
It reminds us that science is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. Proverbs 25.2 puts it beautifully.
How's that?
It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. We should keep searching, but always with humility,
Right.
knowing some mysteries are beyond our current grasp.
Now, some people say Genesis is just a poetic myth,
Okay.
not a literal history.
All right.
How do we reconcile that view with the Bible as a whole?
That's a good question. While some interpret it symbolically, other parts of the Bible treat Genesis 1 as a historical event.
Like Romans 5.12,
Yes.
which links human sin and death back to Adam's disobedience in Eden,
Right.
and 1 Corinthians 15.21-22,
Okay.
which says, death came through Adam, but resurrection comes through Christ.
These passages show Genesis isn't just a standalone story.
Yeah.
It's woven into the core message of the Bible.
Yeah.
It affects how we understand sin redemption and who Jesus is.
So even if we don't take it as a literal science textbook,
Yeah.
its historical and theological significance is undeniable.
Absolutely. And think about it.
Yeah.
Even if God had given a super scientifically accurate creation account, most people throughout history wouldn't have understood it.
Right.
The Bible uses language that speaks to everyone,
Yeah.
communicating truths that are timeless.
Speaking of timeless,
Okay.
go back to that first line. In the beginning, God, it's like, it's so simple yet so profound.
Yes, it puts God at the center of everything.
And what's fascinating is that it tells us God existed before creation.
That's right.
He's not a product of the universe.
Yeah.
He created it.
Amen.
John 17 backs this up.
Okay.
Jesus praying to the Father talks about a glory they shared before the world was.
Yeah.
And a love that existed before the foundation of the world.
This speaks to the eternal nature of God,
Yeah.
existing outside of time and space,
Right.
and to the Trinity's pre-existing relationship.
Okay.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit were already in perfect communion before creating anything.
And this leads to the idea of God's eternal purpose.
Right.
Ephesians 3.11 and Ephesians 1.10 talk about his plan to unite all things in Christ,
Yes.
which means creation wasn't random. but part of a larger design.
Think of it like a grand tapestry.
Oh.
God had the entire design in mind from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And creation is just one thread in this intricate masterpiece.
And this plan unfolds in stages.
That's right.
First the heavens and the earth,
Mm-hmm.
then separating light from darkness,
Yeah.
then the waters above and below,
Right.
creating the sky.
It's like a beautifully orchestrated symphony.
God brings order out of chaos,
He does.
structure and purpose to every element.
That's right.
And this purposefulness continues as he creates the sun, moon, and stars,
Yes.
then the creatures of the sea and sky,
Right.
all leading up to.
The creation of humans in God's image on day 6.
Exactly. And this idea being made in God's image
Right.
might be the most significant statement in the entire account.
It very well might be.
It's not just about our physical looks.
Oh.
It's about possessing personality, morality, and spirituality.
We reflect God's attributes.
Yeah, knowledge, feelings, will, a conscience, the ability to connect with him.
We are image bearers,
Right.
reflecting God's glory in a unique way.
But there's also a physical side to this.
Okay.
Our bodies themselves echo aspects of God,
Like how?
like how we stand upright looking up towards heaven, and our faces capable of expressing so many emotions,
Right.
reflecting God's own emotional depth.
Even our ability to blush shows our moral awareness.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's a physical sign of our conscience reflecting God's own moral nature.
And our capacity for language. To communicate, create, express ourselves in ways no other creature can.
It's incredible.
We mirror God's communicative nature through words.
Right.
It's also intricately connected.
It is. And it's important to remember, being made in God's image doesn't mean that he has a physical body like ours.
Right.
God is spirit.
But our bodies, in their design and capabilities, allow us to interact with creation and fulfill the purpose he gave us.
Like God gave us physical tools that mirror his own nature so we can be co-creators with him.
Which brings us to that dominion mandate,
Okay.
Genesis 1.26 and 1.28.
All right.
We're called to steward the earth and its resources.
Not to exploit or abuse them,
Right.
but to care for them responsibly, like God cares for his creation.
Yeah, we're called to be wise and compassionate stewards.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that we're not just inhabitants, but guardians. We're accountable to God for how we treat his creation.
It's a call to live in harmony with nature,
Right.
recognizing the interconnectedness of everything and our role in protecting that delicate balance.
This brings us to the topic of human evolution.
Oh boy.
Always a hot button issue.
Yeah, it is.
Philip Johnson, a critic of Darwinian evolution,
Okay.
argues that the fossil record doesn't actually show the gradual transformation of one kind of organism into another.
Right.
He says kinds appear suddenly rather than a smooth, slow change.
Interesting.
And even Solly Zuckerman,
Okay.
a staunch evolutionist,
Okay.
question how we interpret key fossils in human evolution.
Really?
He spent years studying them
Wow.
and concluded the evidence for them walking upright was flimsy,
Oh, wow.
based more on assumptions than scientific rigor.
Huh.
He even called the field of human origins full of reckless speculation.
It makes you wonder, are our preconceived ideas influencing how we interpret the data?
Yeah,
Are we seeing what we want to see?
Johnson definitely thinks so.
Okay.
He critiques the cultural significance we attach to the human evolution story.
Mm-hmm.
He feels it's often used to push a materialistic worldview and undermine belief in a creator.
He even compares it to medieval relic worship.
Really?
The reverence for these hominid fossils might be more about reinforcing a belief system than objectively looking at the evidence.
And then there's the Scopes monkey trial,
Okay.
that 1925 case where creationism went head-to-head with evolution in a Tennessee courtroom.
Yeah, it became a symbol of the conflict between science and religion.
While the trial itself wasn't conclusive,
Yeah,
it was a PR win for Darwinism,
right.
pushing creationist views further out of the mainstream.
The media frenzy around the trial really solidified Darwinism's hold on public opinion,
Yeah.
making it even tougher to challenge the dominant narrative.
It's a good reminder of how social and political factors can influence how we view science and interpret evidence.
Absolutely.
So we've seen how Genesis makes a compelling case for a creator God and intelligent design.
Right.
We've tackled the chance versus design debate, explored the meaning of being made in God's image,
Yeah.
and even looked at uncertainties and potential biases in scientific interpretations.
It's been quite a journey, and this is just the beginning.
Oh, yeah, all right.
There's so much more to explore about the origins of the universe and our place in it all.
What stands out to you from everything we've discussed so far?
I'm struck by how the creation account in Genesis ties into our understanding of human dignity and purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just an ancient story. It speaks to the very core of who we are and our place in this grand cosmic narrative.
And that's what's so exciting about this deep dive.
I agree.
Genesis isn't just about the past. It's about understanding who we are today and where we fit in God's ongoing story.
I like that.
We'll be back in a moment to delve into even more fascinating aspects of the Genesis creation account.
Awesome.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Before we move on, I wanted to touch on something that might have popped into your head while we were talking about...
You mean like the order of creation?
Yeah, like the order of creation in Genesis.
You mean how Genesis says light was created on day 1?
Yeah.
But the sun, moon, and stars weren't until day 4.
Right.
I'll admit that one always makes me scratch my head a bit.
It's a common question.
Yeah.
And it highlights why it's so important to remember that Genesis isn't a science textbook.
Okay.
It's using figurative language and symbolism to communicate profound theological truths.
So we shouldn't necessarily take those days as literal 24-hour periods.
Exactly. There are different interpretations of the days of creation.
Okay.
Some people believe they're literal days,
All right.
while others see them as symbolic of much longer epochs,
Okay.
perhaps even vast ages.
So the light on day 1 could have been some kind of primordial light source,
Right.
separate from the sun,
Yeah.
which is created later to govern day and night.
That's one interpretation. And it's worth noting that the Hebrew word for day can have a broader meaning than just a 24-hour period.
Oh, okay.
It can refer to an unspecified length of time, like
Yeah.
an era or an epoch.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It allows for the possibility of scientific discoveries aligning with the biblical account,
Right.
even if the timelines don't perfectly match up.
The key takeaway here is the core message of Genesis.
Okay, what's that?
God is the creator. He brought everything into being, and he did it with purpose and intention.
Okay.
The specifics of how and when he did it are open to interpretation.
Right.
But the fundamental truth remains,
What's that?
God is the author of creation.
Okay, so if God created everything,
Yeah.
that means he's responsible for everything in it, right? Even the things we consider bad or evil.
That's a deep question that has challenged theologians for centuries.
Yeah,
Genesis doesn't shy away from the reality of evil in the world.
right.
We see it enter the story with the serpent tempting Adam and Eve to disobey God.
And that act of disobedience,
Yeah.
the fall, had disastrous consequences.
It did.
It brought sin, death, and suffering into the world,
Right.
shattering the harmony of God's original creation.
But it's important to remember that God didn't create evil.
Okay.
He gave humanity free will, the ability to choose between obedience and disobedience.
Right.
Sin and evil entered the world through their choice.
So evil isn't something God made or wanted.
Right.
It's a distortion of his perfect design, a consequence of human rebellion.
Exactly. And this concept of free will is crucial for understanding the whole biblical story.
Okay.
It explains why there's suffering and injustice, not because God is indifferent, but because humanity chose to go against him.
But even after the fall, God doesn't abandon creation.
No, he doesn't.
He sets in motion a plan of redemption to restore humanity to a right relationship with him.
And that's where the story of Jesus Christ comes in.
Right.
He's the ultimate expression of God's love and his desire to reconcile us back to himself.
And this redemption isn't just about saving individuals, it's about restoring all of creation to its original goodness.
You got it. Romans 8.1522 describes creation itself groaning,
Oh, wow.
longing for the day when it'll be free from decay and restored to its original glory.
So Genesis isn't just about the beginning of the world. It's about understanding our role in God's grand story.
Yes.
Creation, fall, and redemption.
It's a story that's still being written, and we're part of it.
It's exciting to think about.
Exactly. We're invited to participate in God's redemptive work, to be agents of reconciliation and healing in a world that desperately needs it.
Now, going back to human evolution,
Okay.
how do we reconcile the idea of humanity being created in God's image
Right.
with the scientific understanding of evolution?
That's a question that has sparked lots of debate and different perspectives among Christians.
Like what?
Well, some Christians take a literal 6-day creation view and reject evolution altogether.
Okay.
Others embrace theistic evolution,
Okay.
believing God used the process of evolution to achieve his creative purposes.
And then there's progressive creation,
Right.
the idea that God intervened at different points in history to create new species, including humans.
It's important to remember that there isn't one universally accepted answer within Christianity. It's okay to grapple with these ideas and arrive at your own conclusions.
The important thing is to approach these discussions with humility,
Yes,
respect for different viewpoints, and a desire for truth.
and keep in mind that our understanding of both science and scripture is constantly evolving.
Right.
What seems like a contradiction today might be resolved tomorrow with new discoveries.
It's an exciting time to be exploring these big questions.
I think so.
Science and theology are both providing new insights
Yeah.
that are reshaping our understanding of the universe
Yeah.
and our place in it.
Let's shift gears for a moment and tackle something that's captured people's imaginations for centuries.
Okay.
Life on other planets.
Oh, wow.
Given the vastness of the universe with billions of galaxies and trillions of stars,
Yeah.
is it possible God created other intelligent beings out there?
That's a great question. The Bible doesn't specifically address extraterrestrial life,
Right.
but it doesn't rule it out either.
That's true.
It focuses on God's relationship with humanity and his plan for us.
But that doesn't mean God couldn't have created other beings elsewhere in the universe.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
With the sheer scale of the cosmos, it seems almost statistically impossible that Earth is the only planet with life.
It's a mind-boggling concept.
Yeah.
But if there is life out there,
Yeah.
what does that mean for our understanding of God's plan of salvation?
Right.
Would Christ's sacrifice extend to them?
That's a question theologians are still wrestling with.
Yeah.
We may not have a definitive answer until we actually encounter those other beings if they exist.
It's a reminder that God's ways are higher than ours, his thoughts higher than ours.
Yeah.
As Isaiah 55:8-9 tells us,
Mm-hmm.
we might not grasp the full scope of his plans, but we can trust his wisdom and goodness.
Absolutely. And we can be filled with awe at the possibility that we're not alone,
Right.
that God's creativity extends far beyond what we can imagine.
So from the vastness of space,
Okay.
let's bring it back down to Earth and consider something very practical. How does the Genesis creation account inform our understanding of work?
Right.
We're made in God's image.
Yeah.
But what does that say about our vocation, our purpose in the world?
That's a really relevant question, especially today when work can often feel more like a burden than a blessing.
Yeah, for
But
example.
Genesis presents a completely different perspective.
Oh, so,
We see God himself working during creation,
right?
and when he makes humans, he gives them a job
Okay.
to tend and care for the Garden of Eden.
Exactly. Work isn't a punishment or a result of the fall.
Right.
It's woven into our very nature, a way to express our creativity and reflect God's own creative nature.
It's fascinating that the Hebrew word for work in Genesis 2,
What is it?
abad,
Okay.
also means to serve or to worship.
Oh, wow.
It suggests our work can be an act of service, a way to honor God through our efforts.
So whether it's paid or unpaid,
Yeah.
a traditional job or taking care of a home,
Right.
our work can be an expression of our God-given gifts and talents.
It's about seeing our work through the lens of our created purpose.
Okay.
We're called to be co-creators with God,
Right?
using our skills to cultivate beauty, order, and goodness in the world.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective. Instead of seeing work as something we have to endure,
Yeah.
we can see it as a chance to partner with God.
To bring his kingdom values into our workplaces and communities,
Right.
to find meaning and purpose in our daily tasks.
It's encouraging.
It is.
Our work matters not just for our own livelihood, but for the flourishing of the world around us.
And no matter our profession or social status, we can find dignity and purpose in our work.
Right.
Whether we're doctors, teachers, artists, stay-at-home parents, or anything else, we can approach our work as a way to serve, to reflect God's image, and to bring his love and creativity into the world.
Now, we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
From the Genesis account itself, to the complexities of science and faith,
Yeah.
the implications for our understanding of who we are, our purpose, and even the nature of work.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. And we've only just scratched the surface.
That's true.
There's so much more to discover and ponder as we continue seeking truth and understanding about these fundamental questions.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts as we get ready to wrap things up?
I think what's striking me is how relevant and applicable the creation account in Genesis is to our lives today.
Yeah.
It's not just an ancient text, it speaks to the very core of who we are, how we relate to each other, the world around us, and even our daily work.
I completely agree. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts to leave you pondering.
Sounds good.
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the vastness of the cosmos to the intricacies of human existence.
Yeah.
All through the lens of Genesis.
It's pretty amazing.
As we wrap things up, I'm wondering, what does it all mean for us?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
How does this ancient story connect to our lives today? I think one of the most powerful takeaways from Genesis is its emphasis on human dignity. Being made in God's image isn't just some abstract theological idea.
Right.
It has real-world consequences for how we treat ourselves and others.
It means recognizing that every single person has inherent worth and value.
Right.
Regardless of their race, religion, gender, social status, or anything else that divides us.
We're challenged to see that divine spark in everyone, to treat each other with the same respect, compassion, and love that God shows us.
And it reminds us that we're all connected, part of one human family with a shared origin and a shared destiny.
Absolutely. The creation account lays the foundation for a just and equitable society.
Right.
One that truly upholds the dignity of all its members.
That's a powerful message.
It is.
Especially in a world where human rights are so often violated. And people are marginalized and dehumanized just because they're different.
Genesis calls us to build a world that reflects God's love and justice, where everyone is treated with dignity and respect.
And that call to justice extends beyond just our human relationships.
Right.
It shapes how we interact with the natural world, too.
Exactly. As I've discussed, the Dominion Mandate isn't about exploiting creation.
Right.
It's about responsible stewardship.
It's about understanding that we're all interconnected, that our actions have consequences to the environment and for future generations.
It's about caring for the earth as a precious gift from God.
Right.
Preserving its resources and protecting its incredible diversity of life.
It's about living sustainably, recognizing that our own well-being is inseparable from the health of the planet.
And it's about advocating for policies and practices that promote environmental justice, ensuring everyone has access to clean air, water, and a healthy environment.
The creation account calls us to be responsible citizens.
It does.
Not just of our human communities, but of the whole planet.
Of the whole planet, that's right.
I'm walking away from this deep dive with a renewed sense of awe at the majesty of creation.
Yeah, me too.
And the profound implications of what it means to be made in God's image.
Genesis is a story that never gets old.
I agree.
It continues to inspire, challenge, and guide us as we navigate the complexities of life today.
So as we go from here, I hope you'll carry with you a deeper appreciation for the beauty and fragility of creation.
Yeah.
A better understanding of your own place in God's grand story.
I hope so.
And a commitment to live as a responsible steward of both each other and this incredible planet we call home.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep exploring.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the universe and the wonder of creation.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.